I'm in my studio today, and I thought as it's the first day of lockdown, we'll do some live tutorials again. And I'll try and bring these to you at least once a week when time allows. So we've got Lucy Llama today, fabulous Lucy Llama. Just want to make sure I can see your comments on here. There we go. Yay! I can hear you. Excellent. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Nissi Naki Nu. Yay, you can hear me. Excellent. Right. Fabulous. Right, let's get started then. So this is Lucy Llama. Here she is on my mug as well. Can you see her there? Yeah, she's a beautiful beast, but I think she needs a boyfriend. What do you reckon? So I might do some different colours today. So yeah, here we go. So this is what I'm working with. I have some cold pressed watercolour paper that's been pre-stretched, and I've very faintly sketched her on there. The camera's probably not picking that up, so I'm going to go over those marks with my HB pencil so you can see. I'm going to be using my watercolours here. This is a little watercolour pan set, 14 different colours. I'm feeling the blues today. We're going to do the boy, so let's do some blues and purples maybe. I have my watercolour brushes at the ready. So I've got a large one, a size 14, and a size 6 for some fiddly detail work around the eyes. And then I also have my water resistant ink pen. But I tend to do the inking at the end. So once you've finished painting, you can bring out all the accents and features of your llama with an ink pen. If you do it at the end, it doesn't matter if it's water resistant or not. So I could use this fine liner pen, and it's a 0.5, so it's quite a chunky nib size. Give a nice strong mark. So I just need to pop my glasses on, so I can see your comments as well. Let me just see. Any more comments? Let me just move this down. I want to make sure if anyone's commenting, I can see it. Okay. So I'm just going to go over the lines that I very faintly marked in with my pencil, so I can see when I start adding the colours where I'm going. Bring that eyeball in. Now the eyes on the llama are right at the side of the face, so pay attention to where you put your llama's eyes, right over on the edge. And down the side, because they're furry beasts, I'm just going to put some indications of some hair there. Someone's just messaged me asking if I'm proceeding with the class. Let me just message them back. One sec, guys, because there's people waiting to watch, and they're still watching the old one, I think. Okay. Well, hopefully they'll spot it. If not, it stays. These videos stay live on Facebook unless I decide to take them down. So just coming around the nose here, paying attention to that shape. It's kind of like a bone shape coming under the nose and around. Back up the other side, and then we'll come up to where the nostrils sit. There we go. Pop those nostrils in, and then the bottom jaw. There's not a lot of drawing to do, which is good. You could also trace it down. I'm happy that you print off the llama and you trace it if you're not confident with your drawing skills. And to trace it, you just scribble over the back with a pencil, a soft pencil like a 2B, and then draw. Turn it over, put it against your paper and draw over the front. So, down the ears, Just bringing some of that fluffy hair into the ears. They're such quirky looking beasts, aren't they? Such fun. There we go. If anyone's seeing any comments on there and people looking for this live session, perhaps you could tell them where I am. Who's that? Alison Griggs has joined. Hello, Alison. Hi, Jenny. There's 18 of you, so I think most of you have realised what happened. And I very quickly went back to my old. I'm just bringing a few hair marks up the face. So there we have our basic sketch of the llama. I'm just checking the screen to make sure you can see. In fact, I've changed my mind, guys, as I do. I'm going to put the ink down because I want you to really be able to see these marks. Now, when I'm inking, generally, I don't always ink a solid line. I use my ink pen as if I'm sketching with a pencil. So I use broken lines. Let's come around that eye. Around the eyeball. It'll be much easier for you to see. And particularly down the sides of your beast, just dragging that pen. If you're going to do ink first, as I said at the beginning, make sure it's water resistant. You don't want to do all this ink work and then start applying water and it all runs. That would be most upsetting. Just around the top of the nose. I'm not going to draw around the top of the nose. I'm going to use the colours that I put down to show the top of the nose. There we go. And some flicks of hair up the top. Very funky hairstyle. There we go. If any of you are interested, if you look at my events page, you will see my Zoom classes, which gives you the opportunity to talk to me live in a class. So I tend to do them on Zoom. All the classes, all the Zoom classes are priced at £10. And it's generally, depending on what we're doing, around a 2-hour session. And we paint along. You get to ask questions live. I get to see your work and make comments. So if you've not been along to a Zoom class, it's worth giving one a try. Have a look at the events I've got coming up. So there's some for the more serious artists and some for people that just want to have fun and experiment. So there's something for everyone. Okay, how many have we got on now? 15. Oh, we've lost some people. Oh dear. Okay, so there's our llama sketched out. As I say, it's really just the nose and eyes and getting them in the right place. The rest is very loose. Now, when you're using watercolours, we don't use white, guys, okay? Any light areas, any of the white comes from the paper. So you leave the paper clean and dry. Now, watercolours just love water. It's the clues in the name. And what will happen is if your paper is wet, watercolour will find that water and spread into it. So to keep the areas nice and bright and white, you need to keep those areas dry from water. And then the paint can't get to it. So let's have a think about colours. As I said at the beginning, we're going to be using, I think I'm going to do a boy. So I'm thinking blues and maybe a bit of purple so he ties in with Lucy, who had more yellows and purples. And purples and blues really work well together, I think. So what I'm going to do, we're going to do lots of loose painting and we're going to do some wet in wet work. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's have a think. I'm going to come under the neck. I'm just taking clean water and coming under the neck of our llama and just wetting the paper. The reason I'm doing this is I really want the colours to play around and mix and blend. There's some areas I'm going to keep white, so I'm leaving some of the paper dry. Coming up under that ruffle. I'm going to start. I like to work from light to dark. Oh, my daughter's watching. Hello, Kirsty. So I'm going to pick a light blue first. This one is, let me just see, cobalt blue. Because the paper's wet already, you have to bear in mind how much colour you've got on your brush and how much water on your brush. So I'm taking quite a strong blue, straight from the pan. You could use tubes as well. I've got some blues squeezed out there. You can use tubes. Drop that colour on and watch when it hits the water how it spreads out. It loves the water and it just dances in that water. I'm just going to pick a few areas where I want this bright, light cobalt blue to show through. I'm just using the brush, using the tip of the brush to tease it, to move it around. If you want your colours really strong in places, you just want to load your brush with water, pick up your paint, and instead of brushing it on, just touch your brush down and watch the paint disperse in the water. So I'm just popping some areas of stronger pigment that's going to sit there and just move around. Just leave it to do its thing. Okay. I'm going to go on to another blue now. I've had Prussian blue. Much darker. And I'm going to use the Prussian blue under his ruffle, under his neck. Slightly different blue. Popping some strong colour down in the water around his neck. I'm going to dry my brush off and then I'm going to come into that paint and pull it up into the ruffles. Because what we want to do is leave some white fur showing. So let's do that again. I'm just going to come. If your paper is dry, so putting the paint on, wet brush, not too wet, drop that colour on, get rid of the excess paint, and then bring it in, painting negatively into the white area. So pulling your colour up into the white and leaving some white wispy fur that's going to stand out against that neck. Look at that lovely dark blue there. Just like before, if I want the colour stronger, load the brush with water. I always wipe my brush on the side of my cup to get rid of any excess water before I pick up the colour. I'm going to pop a little bit of dark over the side here. Just touching down with the tip of the brush into the paper, and because there's wet paint under it, it's going to bleed a little bit and you're just going to get this really soft look to your llama. Now, as we go, the paper's drying back, so you'll notice that your paint spreads, the spread of the paint becomes less as the paper dries. So you can create some more hair-like marks. Okay, I just want to flick some of the paint over the side. Let's make this really hairy beastie. I love my critters. I have a cup of tea every day in a different character. Okay. For those of you that don't like drawing, hopefully if you've been following my Facebook, who's that? Denise. Hi Denise Lowe. Lovely to see you. If you're really not confident with drawing, I have just launched my watercolour paint book. And it contains 8 of my most popular. There's the llama, Lucy. So we've got Amber, Daydreamer. There's Twiggy, the squirrel, one I've painted. Blue Moon, Rainbow Moon, Flower the giraffe, and I'm wearing the t-shirt with Flower on today. Percy Piggy, and Percy Piggy. And all the colours are on the front. You can either just order the book itself, or you can order a little paint kit and make a nice present for somebody. So check those out. All the ink work's done for you, and all you've got to do is reimagine them and use your own colours. Okay, so I want to bring some more colour into my llama before he dries too much. So I've got some purple here. Let me just bring this in. So this is tube paint that I've allowed to just sit and dry. So tube paints and watercolour pans are exactly the same thing. If you squeeze the tube paint out and leave it in your mixing palette, it will become a pan. So I'm dropping some dark purples in here, in and amongst the blue. Just having a look and feeling my way. I want that strong at the top. Now, if you want your colour weaker, you just add more water. Okay, strong colours, you use the paint neat and creamy. For a lighter colour, because we don't use white, you just water down and you get a much lighter hue. And I'm letting this purple mix with the blue underneath as well, creating another colour. Okay, now remember what I said about the white. I want a lot of white around his snout, his muzzle. So I'm going to leave this area. I'm going to go up to his ears, because if I start applying water here, all this paint's going to bleed into the colours above. So let's go up to his ears. Okay, she had purple. I'm going to go purple again. So I'm going to wet the inside of my llama's ear to start with. Now there are a couple of ways. I'll do one ear this technique. So I'm just wetting the inside of the ear, and the other ear I'll show you another technique. So I'm going to take my light. Remember, I like to work with the light colours first and then darken them. So just dropping in some of this soft purple, weak purple. And if it gets too strong and you think you put too much paint down and you want to lighten it, just take your damp brush, clean it off, dry it on some tissue and use it like a sponge. Come back in, drag it through, and it will pick up the paint. Wipe it on your tissue. Go back, drag through and pick up the paint. So people say watercolour's unforgiving, but actually, once you know how to use it, these techniques will be really useful for you. So that's wetting to wet, wetting the paper first, and then putting some colour on and letting it play around. I'm going to take some dark blue. I want the inside of his ear to be really dark because there's no light there. Let's go darker still. Just tapping in with the edge of the brush. And then we want some white wispy hairs showing. So I'm going to flick, like we did on the neck, back down the face, pull some of that blue in to the white space to create the fluffiness of the ears. Just come right up onto the tip of your brush and pull that colour back so the white is showing up against it. I'm going to add a little bit more stronger purple now. I'm going to darken it again, so I'm going to put the purple straight over the blue and just tapping it on. Now don't worry about those bits that you've just flicked. The paint will only go where there's moisture on the paper. So it's not going to bleed into the rest of the ear. Nice dark inner ear for our llama. If you want to, you can pick your board up and you can encourage it. I'm trying not to knock my water over. You can encourage it to bleed and to follow the water. You can tilt it. Don't worry, you're safe. So the other ear, I'm going to show you a different way. So this one, I'm just going to take my purple into the ear. I should have done this one first because I'm left-handed. I'm trying not to smudge his ear. I'm going to take my purple onto the paper. Then I'm going to take my blue, drop it in, really strong at the base, and a bit of purple over the top. Layering that colour to make it nice and dark. And then I'm going to use a technique called pull-in, where you just put your brush into that paint and spread it out. So you're using a strong colour and pulling it up where you want it. Wipe that brush off if you want it lighter, and spread up to get the same effect, but in a more controlled way. So let's not forget the fluffy bits around his ears. So just like we did on the other side, I'm going to come onto the tip of my brush and flick back and leave some white hairs showing over the top of the dark colours. And you can carry on playing, dropping that colour in and just letting it. I'm going to put a bit more purple in. Now you don't need a huge array of colours with watercolour. You can mix, so long as you've got the primary colours, you can go on to mix a multitude, pretty much everything in nature you can mix from red, blue and yellow. So you have a bit of, I don't use black very often, I'll use black ink. If I do use black, I like to use it within a colour. Anyone else joined? Oh, 19 of you, excellent. Okay, so we have some ears. Now remember, we don't want to touch next to the ear that we've just put those flicks in, because this paint is still wet, and if we start putting water there, it's going to bleed into the rest of his ears. So you can have a hairdryer. Here's my trusty hairdryer, very messy. And you could give it a dry, but be careful, because if that paint's very wet, it might spray out. Or just leave it alone and work on an area where it's not going to, you're not going to disturb what you've done. So let's come to his nose. I think I'm going to go back to light blue. And this time I'm going to just put wet onto dry. I'm going to take this light blue around the edge of his nose, and you can use any colours you like. I did this as a lesson once, and one young girl did hers with a red nose, and it looked so cute, really cute. And I'd love to see, if you want to share your pictures, if you paint your llamas today, please post them on my Facebook so I can see them, see what colours you've done, how you've reinvented the llama and painted it your own way. That's great. I love seeing all that work. So I've put the blue at the top of his nose and around that bow shape in the middle of his face, leaving white in the middle, because I want to leave a highlight. So now I'm going to take just a damp brush. I'm going to go into that paint and pull it, just tap it and pull it towards the centre, leaving a highlight. Leaving a bit of white paper as the highlight. There we are. I like these colours. I think he's going to end up on a mug too. What do you think? And I'm now going to come into the bottom of his jaw. I'm going to do the same thing. Bring some light blue underneath on his bottom jaw. But we have a shadow area. We have a shadow area under his nose, because his nose itself will cast a shadow underneath. So we need to bring a stronger, darker colour. So like in his ears, I'm going to put some purple. I'm going to pick up a bit of blue. Both colours on my brush at once. Is this dry? Yeah, it's nearly dry. I'm going to come in, just tap in between that bow shape. Get that dark colour on there. You notice I'm doing everything with my big brush. If you're not confident, go down to a smaller brush. That's fine. And just bring that shadow down. I'm going to clean my brush off again, just damp. I'm just going to spread that dark colour either side. And again, trying to leave a little bit of white paper showing. Keep wiping your brush off when you're doing this so you don't accidentally spread that colour too far. How cute. Okay. I'm liking him. We need to come up with a name though, so start thinking about names. Who's that just joined? Sue. Hiya, Sue. Alex. I have to come closer here. Alex, mine looks like an angry chihuahua. You should buy the book, Alex. Absolutely buy the book. They're £4.50, by the way, for the book and £9.50 for the kit. If you are interested, let me just show you the kit. So that's what you get if you buy the kit. So you get a stackable paint set, 12 colours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 12 colours, the book, a paintbrush and a mixing palette. So it's really cool and easy to gift because it comes in a box. So, okay, how are we doing? Is he dry enough? I'm being brave and just touching the paper. Okay, I want to bring a little bit of colour to this fluffy bit around his face. I'm deciding whether to put another colour in, but I think, you know, I'm going to stick with this colour range. And I'm going to take some light purple. So take your purple. If you haven't got purple, just mix red and blue. Depends what red you use. Now in this set here, I've got 3 different reds. This orangey red would be no good to mix with blue to make purple because there's yellow in it and you'll end up with brown. So make sure you take a crimson, a bluey red and mix with your dark blue to make your purples. And just practice mixing. Always have a scrap of paper nearby so you can practice. Okay, I'm going to wet a few areas. Just pour my brush around his beard, where I want to put a little bit of soft colour against that white, and then come in. Now I've already diluted my paint, so it's a light colour, and I've got water on the paper, so bear that in mind. The water on the paper is going to dilute your colour even more. And also watercolour, guys, dries back lighter than when you put it on. So if you think you've gone too strong with the colour, don't worry, just wait because it will dry back and it'll be a lot lighter than when you placed it. I'm going to take some of this light blue and I'm going to pop that wet into wet. A bit stronger, I'm going straight from the pan here because I've got a lot of water on the page, just a couple of blobs of colour. And then use the tip of your brush. Don't get into a habit of brushing backwards and forwards, just putting the paint on and manipulating it with the tip of the brush. So there we go. I'm just going to push that around, push that into the purples, spreading that blue around, just adding a little bit of colour to his beard there. And I'm going to pop a little bit up here on his face too. So lots of white paper showing. Don't feel that you have to colour every bit of the paper in. Let the paper shine through. Okay, so we've got the top of his head to do next. I'm going to use that same process as before, wet into wet. So I'm going to wet above his nose, pulling up towards his ears, between the eyes. And up the other side. I'm going to go up his ears. His ears are dry now, so I can come up that side part of his ear. But I don't want any water to go on this part of his nose. I'm going to take my light blue. If you want, put the paint in your mixing well first with a little bit of water and start light. You can always go darker, but it's harder to lift out. I'm just going to flick up few wisps with this blue. I'm going to take some of it up his ears. Very pale, very watery. soft colour to start with, and then I'm going to add some accent colours over the top. Now, it is important to get used to how wet your page is before you drop those accent colours in. If I drop a strong colour in now with a wet brush and some strong blue, it's going to burst out like a starburst. So as you pop that fresh paint on, watch it just burst out into the water. So now I need to control that and pull it back. So really, you want to wait until the paper has just got a glow to it. So the water's sinking back in, but you've just got a bit of a shine. I was just reading a message on the screen. Sorry when my face goes right up close to the camera. I'm sure it's very scary for you all. Okay, let me have a look at the paper. So hold it up to the light. See if that shine's starting to go. And then you know you're ready for your next colour. Pop that in, and I'm going to drag it around. I want a stronger colour closer to his nose. It's going to help shape the top of his nose there. Remember, I put no water in the nose, and look how that water's just stopping, and the paint isn't going any further because I left the top of his nose dry. That's how to protect the white of your paper. Keep it dry. There we go. This has bled a bit more than I wanted, so I'm going to use that other technique that we used earlier, lifting out. Wash your brush, dry it on your tissue and let it act like a sponge. I'm going to come back into that darker blue, lift off and wipe off. Wipe on the tissue. Each time you lift, wipe it off. So you can control where that paint has gone, even after you've put it on. I'm going to come up into these wispy bits at the top. I'm going to take a similar colour to Lucy. I'm going to take a light purple, just mixing up a bit more with some water in my palette. And I'm going to come and whisk. Flick your brush up and away. So your brush actually lifts off the page as you're coming into this tufty bit of hair on the top of the head. Okay, I don't like lines. I've got a thing about lines. So I'm going to take my damp brush like a sponge, and I'm just going to pull some of that lavender colour down, back into the blue. Allow it to mix and you get another shade happening in there. So we've got ears and eyes left to do. I'm going to stick with the purple. He's not as wild as Lucy, is he? I went mad with the colours in Lucy. Be careful when you're choosing colours as well, that you choose colours that are going to mix well together. I took a bit of a risk here with the oranges and purples, because if they mix too much, you'll get brown. If you look here, you can see where the orange mixed with the purple, and I ended up with a brown. Colours that are opposite on the colour wheel, when you mix them, will tend to make brown, and you end up with sludge. Okay, I'm just choosing what colour blue to put on his ears. Let's stick with this one. I'm just going to come in the top part of his ear. Pop in some of this stronger blue. Doesn't even matter if you go over your lines, really doesn't matter. Just have fun with it. And a little bit stronger blue over here. There we go. He's gorgeous. Right, okay. Eyes. We want to make sure we leave a highlight in the eye. Absolutely need a highlight in that eye. Julia Hallam's watching. Hello, Julia. 2 people from Denford watching today. I don't like black. As I said before, I like the black from the ink pen, but for the eyes, we need a really dark colour. So you can, if you want, use your ink pen and it's your painting. If you want to, you can paint in black. Oh, there's a question just come up. Let me come closer to see. You've never ventured further than pencil sketches or pastel. Oh, don't be afraid of watercolours. Well, ask Father Christmas for one of the painting kits. That's an easy way to get you started, Tracy. Why not? Okay, so I'm going to mix up. To make a black or a grey, I'm going to use ultramarine blue or any dark blue that you have with brown, burnt umber in this case. Burnt umber. I'm going to put that in my blue. I've used the wrong blue. Let me do that again. That's ultramarine blue. There we go. So ultramarine blue. If you use a turquoisey based blue, again it has yellow in it, so you'll end up with a dark green instead of a grey or brown. So I'm popping that blue in there, clean your brush off, pick up your burnt umber and mix it together. Where's my scrap of paper gone? I want to show you the colour. I've lost it. I'll just paint on the back of this. So you get this lovely grey. Now, it's a balancing act to get the colour right. And with practice, you just put a little bit of colour in at a time. And you want your paint nice and creamy. If you want it ultra strong, then what you do is go straight on. If you're using pans, go straight onto the corner with the blue and then onto the brown. Blue, brown, blue, brown. And for a blacky, for the eyes, I always end on the blue. And you'll get a much stronger, creamy paint that's not going to bleed and go anywhere. So let me get my smaller brush for this. Pick up some of that grey and then blue, brown, blue, brown, blue, brown, blue. Test it. A bit more water on my brush. There we go. We're going to go into that eye. We want to leave a little bit of light showing at the bottom of the eye. And around the top, right onto the tip of your brush. Take your time and leave that highlight showing. And the other side. Around the top, around the bottom, and then close in just the tip of the brush until you've just got that highlight left in his eye or her eye. And again, very thick paint. Your brush needs to be wet enough to pick up that paint, and we're going to bring in some eyelashes. Just flick out to the side on the tip of the brush. Come over the top of the eye, flick out. Beautiful, lovely eyelashes, very gorgeous. I'm just coming down the bottom of the eye in the corner here, just making a stronger mark underneath. There we go. So all that's left to do is then to add any more ink where you may want it. And of course the splattering, let's not forget the splatters. I do love the splatter of colour over the top. I'm just adding a bit more ink. You want to make sure the paint's dry before you bring your ink in. I'm going to emphasise those hairs on the ear. And a few more marks in his beard. Okay, splattering is great fun. You're just going to load up your brush. I'm going to go for quite, I'm going to use the same colours I've used in the painting. Get a puddle of that colour going. Now, it is a good idea to practice first. There's different ways to splatter to get different effects. I hold my brush parallel to the paper and I just give it a tap. Just tap it, or you can go that way and tap onto your hand. If you do the flicking, pulling the brush down, or a toothbrush, what you'll get is not a splatter. You'll get, you know, if a hair's running and the mud's kicking up, you'll get that kind of effect. But just for a soft splatter, I want a fair bit of water on my brush, and I'm just going to have fun and tap down some splatters. You don't have to do this bit, I just love a splatter. Some blue and some purple. There we are. I really like him. I think he's a perfect partner for Lucy. And you guys will just have to help me with a name. Someone's asked a question. Always wanted to in one of your classes. Difficult to find time. Where can I buy it? On my website, Jessie. Just go to www.eunice.jfriend, don't forget the J, friend.com, and go to art product page and you'll see the kit on there. I just wanted, if you like this llama, next week, I think it's Tuesday, on Zoom, I'm teaching Starry Nights. So there's different characters. We've got a little mouse, a dog and a snowman. Oops, froze there for a moment. What's happened? There we go. So this class is coming up next Tuesday at 6:30. If you can't make the live session, everybody that books gets a recording sent to them. So you get sent a link so you can watch on demand at your leisure. So don't worry if you can't make the live session, just pay for the class. And at the end, it's always after the live event, because I obviously record the live event, and then I send everybody the link. So number one, they may want to watch again if they've attended live, or they just want it and they can't attend live. So for your £10 you get, and that's a lifetime. You can watch that video as many times as you like. It hasn't got a time date on it. It stays live forever, really, unless I decide to remove it at some point in future. But yeah, so that one's next week. Just check out my events on Facebook. You'll see what's coming up. If there's anything you fancy, follow the link. It will take you to my website. So everybody, the last thing to do is to remove also art products. If you want some art products, you're not sure what watercolours to buy, the ones that I use, I sell on my website. So you've got this little kit here that I've been using today. You can buy that, you can buy the paper, you can buy the brushes. I know it can get really confusing when you're not sure, you've not done much art before or watercolours, which ones are best to go for. I can certainly tell you which ones not to go for. So all it's left to do is just to remove your tape. A little tip for you here, when you're taking your tape off, you don't want to tear the paper. So I use a very low tack tape, so it's not likely to tear. If you feel it's a bit too sticky, don't just keep going. Heat it up with a hairdryer and it releases the glue. Also, if you're using normal household masking tape, tap it on your board first to reduce the stickiness, okay? Again, it's going to reduce the chance of you getting a tear in your paper. So there we are, our two llamas. So I really hope you have enjoyed joining me live today. I will probably pop up and do another live next week, and I'll try and do it at least once a week if I can fit them in, because I love doing them and sharing with you. So thanks everybody. I'm off now, and hopefully I'll see you next time or in a Zoom class. Bye for now. Bye everybody. everybody.